Let's head into the papers now, see what the headlines in Nigerian newspapers are. And with me in the studio is journalist Dari Odufowokon. Dari, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure. Great.
And we also have Seun Awogbenle, communication strategist, joining me on Skype. Seun, good morning. It's good to see you.
Morning, Mike. It's my pleasure.
Great. Let's begin with Daily Times. Daily Times newspaper. Lawyers split over removal of stamp seal on court processes. That's Daily Times. And we have News Direct is next. Cheaper fuel drive. Ipman moves to access CBN's 250 billion naira CNG fund and backs federal government on downstream deregulation and says PEF money is marketers' money. It denies protest against NNPC GMD. Okay, all that on the front page of News Direct. Daily Trust is next. Daily Trust says petrol price, electricity tariff, NLC poised for showdown. It gives government 2-week ultimatum, and it's a misplaced decision. The federal government is saying this. And protests rock Lagos, Osun, and fuel scarcity looms in the FCT and the north. All that on the front page of the Daily Trust. Certainly, this will interest Nigerians and even my guests when we open discussion in about a minute. Business Day is next now. Foreign investors, PE firms seek 100% stake in Nigerian insurers. Okay, that's Business Day. Leadership newspaper next says Nigeria most prosperous black nation at 60. President Muhammadu Buhari is saying that. Unveils anniversary logo and activities. A 60th independence celebration to last for 1 year. The Secretary to the Governor of the Federation is saying that. And presidency fires back at Soyinka, says PMB inherited a terribly divided nation. All that on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. National economy is next. And low freight rate lifts Nigeria's crude supply to India. NNPC extend crude swap contracts, saves 5 billion naira in litigation. And the last paper this morning is Blueprint. And it says NLC dares federal government to reverse fuel price, electricity tariff hike before September 28, or anything can happen. Ultimatum illegal, Ngige tells labor, and court orders doctors back to work. Okay, this is a topic of discussion and analysis this morning with my guests in the studio. I'm sure this will also interest a lot of Nigerians who are following this morning across the world. The issue of the hike in fuel price as well as electricity tariff. NLC is responding right now. Dari, before I come to you, let me go to Seun, who is joining us on Skype. Seun, I wonder what you make of this now that there are reports of likely or looming fuel scarcity in the FCT and the north. What do you foresee from this ultimatum by Nigeria Labour Congress?
Well, thank you very much, Mike. I think that sometimes it is important that we are not emotive with, policy issues. And I mean, for the first time, I think I completely disagree with NLC on this one, that they seem to be more emotive than actually looking at the merits of what we have in front of us. I mean, it is clear, and just as it was in 2011, some of us still maintain the position today that it is completely unsustainable for government to continue to subsidize consumption. Now, you have a situation in which government will continue to borrow to subsidize consumption when, that money that they continue to get, because government revenue has actually dwindled over time. In fact, COVID has, with the reality of COVID, what we have is that government revenue has actually dipped seriously. So what we have today is that government is having to borrow. In fact, the 2.3 million, economic sustainability fund that they are, the 2.3 trillion that they're trying to, pump into the economy, they are also going to have to borrow that. So what you have is that I completely agree with government on this one, that for the electricity tariff and as well as the pump price of petrol, let the market, let the market drive this economy. But it is important, I think what I think NLC can take government up on is the accountability. Now, if government is actually not pumping this money into subsidizing consumption, then what are they going to be using the money for, right? And I think that is where NLC should come in and hold the government accountable and transparent in in driving these funds into infrastructure projects and trying to stabilize and reflate this economy. But when you have a situation in which NLC is trying to mandate the government to continue to subsidize what we all agree that is a fraud, what we all agree that is not sustainable, what we all agree that even in several other countries of the world, they are not subsidizing consumption. Even like Saudi Arabia, their fuel is, quite even higher, quite higher than what you have in Nigeria. So
Okay.
I'm happy with government on this one, and I think that we cannot continue to subsidize consumption.
Okay, Sean, let me put you on hold and bring Dari in here. Now, the issue of electricity tariff hike as well as fuel, government says it's just coincidental. They're two different things with two different decisions and two different outcomes. But if we go into the issue of fuel, which anyway, they all affect Nigerians directly, but the NLC is coming up with ultimatum at this time. But government has explained that it is the removal of subsidy that is jacking up the price of fuel at this time. And this is what Nigerians have been calling for. How this paradox or this back and forth, I wonder what you read of it.
Yeah, you will recall, and I will agree with government, that Nigerians in the past asked for the removal of subsidy. In fact,
and now government is responding to that.
But then, not at a time when almost all over the world, governments are now subsidizing. Seeing the need to alleviate the effect of the coronavirus pandemic on their own people, governments all over the world are now subsidizing. So, it is not enough to do good. It is important to do good at the time that good will be felt. Removing subsidy is a good idea. We wanted it all along. But if you must remove subsidy now, at a time when the earning power of the average Nigerian has dipped, at a time when government promised a salary increase, and most governors are yet to comply with that, at a time when the cost of transportation suddenly went up, while salaries were slashed by most employers, at a time when parents now spend more on utilities and other things due to the effect of the pandemic, I think it is a good policy coming at the wrong time. And we cannot run away from the fact that even this, our government, being a very responsive government, the Buhari administration, very responsive, has been issuing and giving palliatives to Nigeria. I am afraid that many people will see this as giving gifts with your right hand and collecting back with the left. If the Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster Management is spending billions of naira to alleviate our suffering.
Yeah, but,
and then
but in that vein, a lot of Nigerians are saying, well, to convince Nigerians, publish these names, be that accountable so people get to know who got what, and how much was distributed to what state, and the breakdown to local government, so that everyone understands how much that money went.
That's even a discussion for another time, because a lot of people will tell you they didn't feel the impact of this program. But where government have been hearing this, let's see who you gave these things to. That's one issue. But while we are saying we still need more palliatives, schools are to reopen. Parents who have lost their jobs, those who are now on half salary, those who are on 20%, are going to pay school fees.
But the irony is,
and then they have to buy fuel for more price.
But a lot of analysts have said that the COVID-19 period is actually the opportunity to remove all of those things. So we start all over.
It will not just be fair on low-income earners. I think we should start by removing all the perks of office of public office holders. If we begin to look at security votes that are not being spent on security. If we begin to look at a governor with 1,011 aides, reducing it to like 50 or 60, if we begin to look at the elephant projects meant to put money in private pockets, if we cut down that to start in this era, maybe we will start on a cleaner note than removing subsidy now.
Okay. All right. Now, Sean, the point there is, I wonder what you foresee, what scenario you foresee going forward now that NLC has issued its ultimatum and government is saying, no, this is misplaced ultimatum and all of that. It's the both sides against each other. But what do you foresee?
Well, I think that we cannot actually afford a shutdown of this economy, particularly at this time. This is a very critical time in our nation's history and even in global history. So we cannot afford a shutdown. I think that NLC and government need to come back to, because I watched that I think it was on Tuesday where they had a parley with government. NLC and government actually had a parley, and almost all the top ministers were there to actually make NLC understand. I mean, everybody that would know that I'm a strong critic of this government. But on this one, I mean, it is important that sometimes we come into discussions like this from a place of information. And then from the information that I think I have, I honestly think that, I mean, the government is doing the right thing. There is of the opinion that, okay, perhaps it is not the right time, but I mean, COVID-19 is the only opportunity that we actually have to reinvent the wheels. And if we do not do it, we are going to lose it forever. Right. So if we're going to put this economy back on the path of prosperity and delivering democratic business, then yes, we have to remove subsidy on all forms of consumption. It also talk about also removing what's it called, our over bloated public service, and then the fact that there's a whole lot of money going into that already.
Everyone actually just believes the government has to be more prudent than it is right now to save monies from all of the leakages here and there.
Let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Daily Times. Lawyers split over removal of stamp seal on court processes. And to the front page of the News Direct, cheaper fuel drive. Ipman moves to access CBN's 250 billion naira CNG fund. Backs federal government on downstream deregulation, says PF money is marketers' money. Denies protest against NNPC GMD. All right, now let's move to the front page of the Daily Trust. Petrol price, electricity tariff, NLC poised for showdown. Gives government 2-week ultimatum. It's a misplaced decision. Federal government protests rocks Lagos, Osun. Scarcity looms in Federal Capital Territory North. And on the front page of the Business Day, foreign investors, PE firms seek 100% stake in Nigerian insurers. On the front page of the Leadership newspaper now, Nigeria, most prosperous black nation at 60. President Muhammadu Buhari speaking there, unveils anniversary logo activities, 60th independence celebration to last for 1 year, SGF. Presidency fires back at Soyinka, says PMB inherited a terribly divided nation. We'll be looking at that story shortly. And to the front page of the national economy, low freight rate lifts Nigeria's crude supply to India. NNPC extends crude swap contracts, saves 5 billion naira in litigation. And finally, on the front page of the Blueprint, NLC dares the federal government, says reverse fuel price electricity tariff hike before September the 28th, or ultimatum illegal in Gigetel's labor. Court orders doctors back to work. All right, gentlemen, this story on the front page of the Leadership newspaper talking about Nigeria's celebration of 60 years. And the president unveiled the logo yesterday, talking about our uniqueness and togetherness, and the theme also focuses on our togetherness in the past 60 years, despite our differences in religion and tribe and all of that. Sheo, I would begin with you now. The most prosperous black nation, that's what the president sees Nigeria as. especially leading up to the 60th celebration. I wonder how this comes to you, reacting to the president's statement.
Well, I think, I mean, because I read the speech by the president, he talked about the wealth of our human capital and also the richness of our land. I think I completely agree with the president on that one. Nigeria is a blessed country. We have huge potential, particularly with our human capital. But the potential, as we haven't seen the potential manifest over time, and that is the problem. And why has the potential been impeded or impaired over a long time? It's because we've had leadership failure, and sadly, even the president, as President Muhammadu Buhari, has also failed to offer the same leadership. Leadership has always been, like Achebe said, squarely the problem of Nigeria, and we have not been able to get it right with leadership. And if we do not get leadership right, nothing else is going to work in this country. Talking about prosperity, I may disagree with the president that this is the most prosperous black nation. I mean, if you talk about I think the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics said about 22.9 million Nigerians are in extreme poverty. I don't think that that can count for prosperity. If you tell me that more than 30 million school children are out of school at the moment, I don't think that counts for prosperity. If you tell me that a number of Nigerians are, more than 20 million Nigerians are actually out of jobs, they are unemployed, I do not think that counts for prosperity. And I think the job of the president is actually cut out. These are some of the things that we expect the president to put in place, particularly because he's president.
But if I may interrupt your line of thought, the president might see things differently because of the various interventions he might have put in place to address some of the issues that you have mentioned. What are we not getting right with the interventions delivering on the right result?
Well, I mean, Veronica, I don't understand when you mean the things that the president has put in place. Are you talking about the policy somersault and the policy misalignment? I don't think that counts for anything anyway. I mean, we are all here, we can see it. We are all in Nigeria. Nothing is working. There's a complaint. The other day, Obasanjo came and said, this country is actually on the edge of the abyss. The same thing, Wole Soyinka also, reiterated the same thing. I don't think anything is working. Nigerians are in hardship. The whole country is working for only the elites. And you see, the problem is that it has gotten to a point where, making it or excelling or thriving in this country is no longer the norm. You need access to political power or, proximity to such to be able to excel. This is a completely lopsided system that's not going to work, and it's going to break down if they don't do something about it.
All right, Sheil, would like for you to hold your thoughts. Let's bring the conversation to the studio now, asking Dare the same question. He has pointed out his thoughts with regards to the president's statement, especially seeing that we are celebrating Nigeria at 60. And one of the statements the president made was that the celebration is a tribute to the struggles of our heroes past. And when you look at how far we have come, 60 years, the struggles of our heroes past, can we say categorically that it is not in vain, seeing that the president is saying that we are the most prosperous black nation?
There are two statements there. I think I agree with the president on one, but I want to examine the other critically. I agree with the president that so far the labors of our heroes past are not in vain. The fact that we are still one country 60 years after independence is a lot to celebrate, except for people who don't believe in one Nigeria. That we are still together. We've had a civil war. We've had violent disagreements along tribal, ethnic, and religious lines.
Right.
We are having an ongoing war, as it is, in the Northeast. Many nations didn't go through 1/3 of what we've been through, and they are no longer together today, the world over. So for that, maybe we should be celebrating. While celebrating, we should be working hard at ensuring that we hold this country together. However, talking about us being the most prosperous nation in the world, I think it's just like saying Nigerians are the happiest people in the world. It is relative.
Right.
Prosperity depends on what we are talking about. And also seeing prosperity depends on where you are standing. President Muhammadu Buhari, who lives in Nassau Rock, operates as Mr. President. uses the facilities of government, seeing that other nations he has visited does not have such facilities for its government officials, knowing that other nations he is aware of don't pay their public officials as much as Nigeria pay our own politicians, knowing that legislators in other countries of the world will not do 4 years in office and become multi-billionaires.
So it's from a personal perspective that he's making this statement.
If you are a Nigerian sitting on this side of the divide, seeing schools that are beyond the reach of the average Nigerian and his or her children, seeing roads that cannot support economic development, looking at infrastructures that are totally almost non-existent, then you may not agree with Mr. President. However, I remember that 5 years ago, or six years ago, I was on television just like this, before independence, towards independence, and we were discussing this same thing. And we agreed that Nigeria is far from prosperity, meaning that it is not a problem created by this administration. That is where I want to link it, that we have suffered leadership. Prosperity it comes in twofold: what you have and what you have made of out of what you have.
Yeah.
If it's about what we have as a nation, Nigeria is a very prosperous nation. So many potentials for us to tap in. But what have we made out of this prosperity? That's God-given prosperity. It is the material we use to process man-made prosperity. God has given us the raw materials. He has also given us the brain. Now, all we needed all along were leaders that will harness these potentials as well as the abilities of the people into coming up with real prosperity. The prosperity we are now talking about will put money in the pockets of Nigerians across board.
Right.
We'll put food on the table. But if in 2020 we are still talking about a lack of power, electricity, if 60 years after independence, in those days of independence, power in the area where it were available were very, very stable. But 60 years down the lane, we don't have electricity, we don't have roads, we don't have this. So prosperity, in the real sense of it, is still far away from Nigerians. And Mr. President should know that while we are a very prosperous nation by nature, we need to harness these things and turn them to the real prosperity people will feel.
All right, Shehu, we are bringing it back to you now as it stands. Now that we are celebrating 60 years, it gives us another chance to perhaps harness this gifts like Dari has mentioned. Where do we begin if we are to move forward, ensure that the common average Nigerian gets the monies necessary, like Dari pointed out, and gets a feel of this prosperity that the president is talking about?
Veronica, I like that question, particularly because it's coming at this, like I said, it's coming at an auspicious time. But all that the president needs to do is very simple. The only legacy that President Muhammadu Buhari owes Nigeria is electoral reforms. We need to get our leadership selection process right. If we do not get leadership selection process right, every other thing is going to be fundamentally flawed. And that is the basis for all that we're doing. I mean, there's election in Edo on Saturday, and there's palpable tension almost everywhere. Elections should not get to the point where people are apprehensive. Elections should be done in an atmosphere of that is free of rancor. Now, like I said, the only legacy that President Muhammadu Buhari owes Nigeria is to bequeath on us an electoral system that can work and deliver the best hands to actually manage this country. If we do not get our leadership selection process right, then nothing is going to work. And that is our demand. In fact, as a member of civil society, that is the most important demand at this point. That the most important legislation is for us to reform our electoral process. If we can reform our electoral process and let our elections reflect the wishes of the people, it should not be about the wishes of the minority, but that the mandate truly belongs to the people. All right,
Shehu Awugbenle, we must thank you for your time on the newspaper review. Dari, we don't have much time for your last thoughts, but then everything has been said, points taking. Dari Odufowokon, thank you so much for your time on the newspaper review as well.